Hi, everybody. Archbishop Dolan here. I'm pleased to have this opportunity to talk with you a bit about one of the most important ministries in the entire Archdiocese of New York, our Catholic schools. You know, they have a long and proud history of transforming lives and giving our children, rich and poor, Catholic or not, from backgrounds as diverse as this great Archdiocese itself, giving them the talents they need to grow into virtuous, responsible adults, guided by the faith and morals of our beloved Catholic faith. Generations of families, probably most of your own, many who had just arrived on our shores, have looked to us, the Church, for welcoming schools that offer a lot more than just an excellent academic education, which, by the way, we very much do. But these people have always traditionally sought a safe, secure, nurturing environment where, well, the same faith and values that they teach their kids at home are reinforced there at school. We see ourselves as acting in partnership with our parents, and our schools are really dedicated to developing our children intellectually, morally, and spiritually, so they'll become the leaders of society and the church that we love tomorrow. Since it's so obvious that our Catholic schools play such an important role in our faith formation and in the future of the church we love, listen to me say, I am enthusiastically committed to our mission of providing a Catholic education to any child who desires one. That's why we recently published our new strategic plan. You've heard of it, right? Pathways to Excellence. We did it last year. There just seemed to be the common recognition that we just couldn't remain with the status quo. We just can't do business as usual in how our schools have been supported. I'm talking about from both a financial and a government's perspective. Last year we had to make, once again, the very painful decisions to close about 30 of our schools. We had to do it to reduce overwhelming deficits. And these difficult decisions, as neuralgic as they were, they've kind of better positioned us to enter the second phase of the plan, and that's called regionalization. Regionalization. I'm really excited, while admittedly a bit nervous, about this next step that we're taking, because I believe it's going to ensure our schools that they're strong, vibrant for generations to come. Regionalization is a bold new concept for Catholic education, and I believe its time has come. Over the past months, you've spoken to us. We've had meeting after meeting, listening session after listening sessions. You've talked to us a lot, and we've tried our best to listen. And it seems that there's a growing consensus. We believe that regionalization is going to increase the opportunity for more and more of you, our faithful, working always closely with our pastors, to participate more rigorously in the governance and financial oversight of our Catholic schools, thereby providing a broader base of support and leadership for education. What we're hoping is that by organizing our school system into these geographic regions and with strong local support and oversight from all of you, we're then going to have the best collective resources available from the entire Archdiocese and from each local community working together to strengthen Catholic education for the benefit of our real treasure, the children and the families we serve. Our vision is to protect, strengthen, and preserve the Catholic schools that we love. And now, listen close as Dr. Timothy McNiff, our superintendent of schools, is going to tell you a lot more details about this regionalization, how it's really a new and promising direction for Catholic education, how the process is going to work, and why it's so important to you and to our schools.
Hello, my name is Dr. Timothy McNiff. I'm the school superintendent for the Archdiocese of New York, and I'm absolutely delighted to have this opportunity to share with you some of the details that are involved in our strategic plan, which we call Pathways to Excellence, to give you an update of where that plan currently is, and more importantly, if you did not have the opportunity to attend one of our town hall meetings, to give you an update on the regionalization of our schools that is currently taking place. Pathways to Excellence is a plan that is bold, it's very candid in how it looks at our schools today, and it becomes very visionary in how we will move our schools forward. You could almost think of it as having 3 chapters to it. The first chapter contains 54 strategies on how we will continue to improve what we believe is already an excellent academic product. The second chapter had a reality to it, sad to say, that needed to address deficits that had been accumulating over decades and that were seriously jeopardizing the financial health of the Archdiocese. And the third piece is the vision going forward, creating a new business model so that we can make sure that our schools remain successful. The mission statement is the first objective that we accomplished, and it was an important one. Because while we will be talking about a business plan, our first priority remains on the students, to make sure that while they are engaged in our schools, that they are understanding the importance of developing a relationship with their God, that they have their own faith journey that they must follow, that they have to excel academically so that they can be productive and lifelong learners within their community. All of the strategies that we have embedded into this plan that I will talk about today are put as a litmus test against that mission statement. In the event you don't know, the Archdiocese is huge and very diverse. It's a strength of ours, not only in terms of the number of students, the number of schools, but in geography. We encompass the boroughs of Staten Island, Manhattan, the Bronx, and 7 counties north of the Bronx, so much so that we are within 50 miles of Albany, and we still are in the Archdiocese of New York. The slide that you have in front of you shares the breakdown of those schools. You might ask, this is only encompassing elementary schools. And what about the 50 high schools that are within the Archdiocese? A fair question. Our high schools, we have developed a different strategy, a different plan for. We started that several years ago. It's up and running, and we'll continue to work with them on a governance model that is slightly different than what we're talking about here. But as I have said to our high school communities, the best gift that we can give them is a sustainable and a strong feeder system, that being our K-8 elementary schools. In terms of the actual document that we drafted, we wrote 54 strategies that addressed how are we going to continue to maintain, preserve, and celebrate our Catholic identity, continuous improvement with our academics, make sure that we have the best leadership within the schools, and how we will continue to market for enrollment so that the schools can remain filled with students. Then the last part of the plan, we talk about a new business model, which in the box on the screen is referred to as our finance and our governance. There are 2 common themes when you read the plan that you will see in these 54 strategies that will be enacted in the next 3 years. The first is predicated on the belief that adults are the people that drive good schools. And so much of our strategies in terms of professional development focus on our teachers and our principals. The second is that we did not want Pathways to Excellence to be an opinion-driven exercise. Conversely, we looked at data more than we ever have before to help drive the vision that is needed for our schools going forward. This presentation does not have the luxury of time to do all 54 strategies, but let me share with you some of the strategies that we're doing so that you can gain a confidence that the direction that we're moving for our schools in terms of Catholic identity and academics and leadership are in the right direction. With respect to Catholic identity, we're looking at our standardized religion test scores in a way that we have not before, and what those scores are telling us. We've developed a brand new program called Educate to Elevate, consisting of professionals who will go to various schools based on test scores and trends of low scores over the last couple of years to see how we can, in a very collegial way, work with those teachers over a period of time so that we can make sure that the message of not only Jesus Christ but the tenets of the faith are being passed on to the children in an effective way. I continue to harbor frustration, in all candor, on our enrollment strategies, and that is because I don't believe we'll ever have the funds that we need to make it a very strong, aggressive marketing campaign. Many times people will say to me, why are not the schools out there more visible to the public. I think what they're saying is, how come they don't see our schools more on television, radio ads, or in printed media? And the reality is, those expenses are beyond our budgets. The professionals have guided us to say that the best way to stretch marketing dollars is to use it through the internet and to make sure that all of our schools have not only websites, and we have work to do there, but that they have professional-looking, user-friendly websites. It's the internet where we're spending a great deal of our time in order to make sure that the schools are marketed properly. Adults become so important, and particularly principals, for good schools. I would submit to you the person behind this camera right now is not the most important person in education. It is the school principal. Show me a good school, and I will show you a good principal. And it's for that reason that Pathways to Excellence spends a good deal of time with the strategies to make sure that we continue to enjoy what we have for decades, which is strong, professional, visionary school leaders. Pathways takes another look at how we will continue to recruit, to vet, to evaluate, and to train principals going forward. And to state the obvious, schools are still a place for academics and for learning. Pathways is spending a lot of time talking about how continuous improvement to what I believe is already a very good product will remain. One of the examples is looking at the data that comes from not one, but two standardized tests that our students take on an annual basis. And that we spend time during the year, which we call our data day, where teachers spend an entire time in a collegial way looking at those test scores from a class perspective and from an individual student perspective, and then discerning how they can differentiate their instruction, deliver it with different methodology, the content of their classes, so that all students continue to benefit from that. The second chapter had a sad reality to it. $22 million of deficits were incurred last year collectively from the 276 schools. Put another way, at the end of last year, there were bills, unpaid bills, that accumulated $22 million that the Archbishop had to address through his budget in order to satisfy vendors. This is not sustainable, to state the obvious. This is the reason we needed to look at a certain number of schools, 27 elementary schools, but when we added the number of private and some high schools, that total became 32 last year, had to close. And it is a sad reality from this perspective. We did not close failing schools. When you looked at the test scores and when you look what was accomplished at these schools every year, they were far from failing, but they were not making it financially. This is where our challenge is. The 32 school closures addressed those deficits, not in its totality, but made a significant dent in reducing the deficits so that the school system can remain manageable. The last part of our plan is the regionalization. And what this is a plan that says we need a new business model to keep our schools sustainable and viable into the 21st century. Regionalization is an exercise where we are going to invite the laity more than we ever have before to become participatory with our pastors and with the Archdiocese to help guide our schools into the future. The business model is broken into two components. There's a governance section to it, and then there's a section where we start to identify where new revenues that we haven't enjoyed or experienced in the past will come to help support our schools. As the slide indicates, it's going to be a 3-year process where we're currently developing the plan. We will pilot it for 3 regions in the next year, and then all of the regions will actually go live in September of 2013. That's a broad overview of our regionalization model. In part 2 of this presentation, we'll get into the very specifics of how that becomes operational.